So welcome Ayurveda warriors. This is Dr. Hitesh Chaudhary. A very good afternoon, and I am the founder of Specialty Practice Blueprint, a unique concept of establishing specialty for all Ayurveda graduates. So we have started this mission of empowering 10,000 Ayurveda graduates all over India to start their specialty practice. With these missions, many people have already attached and inspiring us. So through which we have started one new concept about the interview series. It is called as a Disha. It is the Pathfinders in Ayurveda. So there are so many people, so many doctors, senior people, they have already started a specialty long years back, and they have excelled and got so many achievements through this specialty. So they have created their footprints that we can easily follow. But their journey, their struggle was not easy. So we are recording this another episode of Disha with Dr. Mukund Sabnis sir. So I welcome Mukund Sabnis sir here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just briefing about Dr. Mukund Sabnis sir. He is my mentor and guru in the field of Ayurveda as well as the business management in Ayurveda. So he has started his specialty long years, almost 26 years back. That time Ayurveda was not so popular, but still he has thought to start this specialty, concentrating mostly on the obesity. And then he has started his journey with obesity. Now he has built up the huge empire. So he has started 90 plus franchises all over India. He is a key resource person for many national and international seminars and conferences. He has published a lot of papers in national peer-reviewed and international peer-reviewed journals as well. So his brand is Jeevan Rekha Ayurvedic Chikitsalaya and Research Center. He has his private labs for chemical analysis of drugs as well as the blood parameters for the obesity patients. So he's going to explain more about his journey. So we will start by asking the basic questions to Dr. Mukund sir. So sir, was your dream to become a doctor? Have you ever thought in your childhood like आपको डॉक्टर बनना ही है?
Basically, I never dreamt to be a doctor because nobody in my family was a doctor of medical field.
Mm-hmm.
But my uncle, who have brought me, was a veterinary doctor, and he used to tell me every time, force me every time that I have to be a medical doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And he every time used to tell me about the mode of actions of the drugs, what he used to use in veterinary medicines. And that clicked something in my mind that yes, that we should know that how the medicines are working. That was only in my mind. But it never came that I should treat the patients. But whatever the medicine were used for the patients, how they are relieving the disease, that I was in keen interest. And that made me get diverted toward the medical field.
Okay, but so you have never thought that you wanted to become a doctor?
I never thought to be that I will be a doctor in this field. But some research things which my uncle, I got the heredity from my uncle. So that made me very much cautious regarding the research in medical field. He used to give me the research papers. He used to give me the stories to read regarding how the research are taking place in modern medicine regarding medical field.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also interested to know that really how this medicine. So I was more interested to be a biochemist, a very nice biochemist, rather than coming to a medical field.
Mm-hmm. But if you are interested in research, then why not MBBS and why Ayurveda? So how you got admission to Ayurveda?
Yes. I didn't came to Ayurveda willingly actually. Neither my parents were willing to come take me admission into Ayurveda. But when I passed my 12th standard in 1986, so my marks were not up to the mark. I missed my MBBS just by 0.3% in government Medical College, Aurangabad, because at that time we were not having entrance, and only by 0.3%, missing by 1 mark, I missed my MBBS. There was no option because I was not coming from very rich family, so there was no money to take admission into the private colleges. So at that time, I made my mind to be a doctor in the 12th standard. So unfortunately, I had to take admission in Ayurved, but today it has been turned to be a very fortunate thing. So when I took admission to Ayurved, in those days the things were very not in favor of Ayurved actually. Society was not in favor of Ayurved, and society was thinking Ayurved doctors to be a substandard doctors. So whenever people used to ask me that where you are studying, I used to tell them I'm becoming a doctor. I never used to tell them that I'm taking education in Ayurveda and I'm in second year of BAMS, because that used to give me certain inferiority complex, and I never used to tell. So the journey started that way, and the most terrible thing what I experienced that when I came to Ayurveda, there were very few teachers who motivated us to learn Ayurveda. Everybody were in the intention of teaching modern medicine, and we were prepared that way because our seniors were getting prepared that way to be a general practitioner rather than a consultant, and get to general practitioner in the area of modern medicine. I knew very well, because I was coming from a very educated family, I knew very well that I don't want to be a general practitioner at any cost. That either I will not practice or I will be a super specialty practitioner. That was 100% decided when I passed away my first year and took admission to second year. I was very fortunate that in second year, our batch got excellent teachers, and our both common mentor, Dr. Saurikar sir, who is a fatherly figure for me. So I got introduced to him, and then there were Dr. Saleh was there, Dr. Kadri was there, Dr. Sathe, SM Sathe was there. So these people, they were inclining us to learn Ayurveda very authentically. And after coming to second year, I started actually learning Ayurveda and started learning about the quotations from Charak and Ashtang Sangraha. And at that time, I started my practice basically with a very senior cardiologist, Dr. Sahibrao More. And I started with him consulting practice. So I used to, first I joined as an observer, and then I used to look patients in the perspective of Ayurveda, and he was treating the same patient in the perspective of modern medicine. So whenever there were limitations were coming to him, so we used to discuss the case. Sir used to discuss the case, what you can do it through Ayurveda. And then actually I started thinking about the mode of actions that, okay, if I have to give certain antihypertensive medicine, what would be the mode of action of my formulation or my Ayurvedic drug? Or if I want to give any medicines for ischemic heart disease, what could be the mode of action of my medicine? And that the journey started that way. A very interesting thing I found when I was learning Bhaishya Kalpana and Rashastra, that people used to feel very proud if they are preparing Chyawanprash. I never prepared Chyawanprash in my life. People used to feel that, okay, we are so pleasured that, yes, today I have prepared 5 kg Chyawanprash, 10 kg Chyawanprash. And I used to think that preparing any medication is not a job of doctor, but technically exploring the mode of actions, technically making the formulation very sound that it should be most effective to the patient, then increasing the scope of pharmacology in Ayurveda. That was the real intention of a doctor preparing a medicine. Just preparing certain formulation It's not at all. It is a job of a technician, and it can be easily taught to a subordinate person, and he can prepare it very nicely if the SOPs are made very correctly. Then we went to prepare certain SOPs of certain formulations with the help of our department. And certain SOPs were prepared, and those SOPs, we were keeping a watch of whether those SOPs are getting followed by the subordinates or not, and medicines were getting prepared very correctly. Then eventually I got admission in the post-graduation of Rashashastra Vaishajya Kalpana, where again I came across with the same staff and doctors, respected Dr. Saurikar sir. And then really the thing started from there, that I was totally inclined towards the Ayurveda science.
Interrupt over here. So you have learned the cardiology at your UG time, right?
Yeah. And then I learned cardiology till my final BMS only. And I used to see the patients. Dr. Saibram More sir used to give me patient individually to get it managed. He used to ask me the parameters when he was not there, and I used to take rounds in behind him. And I learned the pharmacology of cardiac medicines. I learned the medicine actually. And then I thought to compare that if modern medicine can be explored up to a cellular level, why can't Ayurveda medicines can be explored up to cellular level, which can create confidence in my co-students, in my co-batchmates, and in my juniors, which can help them to practice Ayurveda very scientifically.
So that's why you have selected the Rashashastra and Vaishajya Kalpana?
Yeah. I was first in two subjects in my final year. I was first in Shalya and Shalakya. But Shalya and Shalakya would not entertain me in the research area. So I took Rashashastra Vaishajya Kalpana, where I was also first in that subjects. And fortunately, the seat was open for the open candidate. And I got admission over there. And then the research angle developed over there. Fortunately, we had a very good detailed drug testing and standardization lab, which was a unique lab in Maharashtra in those days. Dr. Halde was Umakant Halde sir, who was PhD in biochemistry, used to lead that lab. And I had a very good rapport with him. So he also allowed me to use very delicate instruments in those days. And I was directly using those instruments. And then the research angle developed. I was the only student in those days to read maximum journals coming into the library. And majority of the journals I have read in those library till I was in the college, in Government Ayurveda College in Nanded. And that again gave me a very, very good inclination to going towards research and integration of modern and Ayurveda medicine. Second thing, in the development and as a student, we had a very good, what we call as an interdisciplinary staff, which again motivated us to taught us individually. My teachers, my guides, my co-guides, or the teachers from our other department, they never enforced their thoughts on us. We were allowed to develop our own thought process, and we were allowed to share and debate our thought process with our seniors and even our HODs. That again gave us a very, very good backup to think of our own, and that process actually came to help in our individual practice.
So after completing your PG in Rashashastra and Vaishajya Kalpana, so right from first day you have started your practice, the specialty practice in obesity, and why you think about the specialty in obesity?
Yes, actually, this is again, this also came from one research project. One of my very close colleague, he is not there now, Dr. Atul Nirgude from Latur. So he was doing, he was junior to me by 2 years. And he was doing some project in under Dr. Dharmadhikari in Kai Chikitsa, and he was working on some basti preparations. And that basti preparation came for standardization to our department. And we were trying those bastis and those preparations on some patients. Then when I was doing standardization, I was in the analysis of these basti dravyas. And I found that these type of formulations can be used in metabolic disorders to correct the gut flora. And why we are using it in as an anti-aging medicine? We should first try to use it in the metabolic disorders. In those days, I put this idea before some of my colleagues, but my colleagues didn't respond to it. They found that this idea is not very good. How can a basti preparation, a preparation which is to be given by an anal route, if though that type of preparation used to be given by oral route and achieve a very good weight reduction? Till then, I was studying and I came across some Japanese research papers which gave me some different angle of thinking of the processing of the tail and ghrutta. So actually what I feel, this should be the role of the people of Rashastra, Bhaishya Kalpana or Dravya Gun, that they should start thinking out of the box, increasing the scope of Ayurveda. The same format what Charak and Sushruta have told, if I have followed those same format, I would not been achieved to treat more than 52,000 obese patients. So I developed a new technique to process with the oils that I named it as an hydroxylation process. And in the third year itself of my post-graduation, I gave that medicine, I prepared that medicine, which was prepared not by the principles of the Charak and Sushruta elaborated, but very similar to that process. But I developed that process. And the first time I gave the medicine to my sister's husband, to my brother-in-law, and I told that I am going to make you a guinea pig. And if you see it, if you try it, you are obese, whether you can reduce it or not. Then it took me nearly 2 years to decide the dose of those medicines. But once I started working on it and then I decided the dose of those medicines, then that dose of medicine I gave to the first person, my brother-in-law, and fortunately he reduced by nearly 5.5 kg within 6 days.
Within 6 days?
6 days.
Oh.
And then that clicked the idea to me. So till then time, I was on the verge of finishing my post-graduation and I shifted to Aurangabad and started my practice in obesity. Till then, I treated nearly 50-60 patients itself in Nanded for obesity, which were showing very good results. But there were many difficulties because what was happening, now I had a medicine for obesity, but I was not able to explain how the weight is getting reduced. And the way of the practice I settled, there were many biochemists, microbiologists, medical doctors, physicians, gynecologists coming to me asking for the treatment. But along with that, they were asking for the mode of action. How your medicines are working, let us know, then we will take them. So to develop all these things, it took nearly 7 to 8 years, very calmly studying. I developed all these things. Then I developed the systemic operating procedures of the treatment, not for the medicine. Medicine already I have developed SOPs. But till then, nobody had worked on the SOP of the managements, that systemic operating procedures of the management. And then the systemic operating procedures of the management was developed. Unfortunately, my teachers were not working in obesity, so I was not able to get correct answers. And it was a tough time for me to find the answers for every pathology.
So you didn't have any mentor at that time?
Yeah. I didn't have any mentor who was already working in metabolic disorders. Because my teachers were totally academically based. And the best thing what I did, I didn't follow any Ayurveda doctor when I started my practice. Even because I used to practice with a modern practitioner till my third year or till my internship. So I didn't have any idea that how Ayurveda practitioners were practicing Ayurveda. And on the contrary, that came to my help very nicely. I can develop my own ideas regarding the kalpas, regarding the pharmacology, regarding the dosages to be decided while treating the patients. I didn't copy anybody. So I developed my own system to own SOPs to treat the to treat the patients of different areas. So not only obesity, but obesity with diabetes, obesity with insulin dependent diabetes. So then that was the main area where I worked a lot. Second thing, the most tough problem was to design a diet of the patient, which should click the patient and which should show us very fast results to the patient. So again, I have to spend many years to decide the diet of the patient. I worked a lot on nutrition. I worked on what we can call as at a very minute biochemical level, epigenetic level, genetic level. I worked with the food and foodstuffs, and then we decided certain type of diet to the patient, and that diet of the patient. And I am so proud today that the whatever diet we promote to the patient, that diet charts are copyrighted in nearly 129 countries today. So
Wow.
nobody can give such type of diet, and we have a complete copyright on it. So nobody can copy it as it is. So we have worked a lot, and it took nearly means to right from starting with the practice in 1996. It took me 2010 to start with the first franchisee.
Oh. So, but
Because
here, I just want to ask one thing.
yeah,
The thing that you are explaining now, it is more based on the research. It is more based on the modern biochemistry. But does it back with the Ayurveda principles also?
basically we are using biochemistry, molecular biology, then modern techniques of diagnosis, pathology, all these we are using as a tool to elaborate Ayurveda principles very correctly in a highly scientific manner. I feel that if anybody want to put forth Ayurveda into today's community, we have to explore it in a different manner. No doubt we have to explore in Ayurveda manner. That is mandatory. We can't avoid any principles of Ayurveda, but along with that, if we are able to explain it in the terms of molecular biology and biochemistry, then it will be accepted throughout the world. Once the acceptance increases, then our theories of Tridosh or our theories of Panchamahabhut or our different theories of management of the disease can be put forth very successfully, and the acceptance for those theories will be very correct if they are to be explained and on the level of biochemistry and molecular biology. If we are explaining it in the terms of Vat, Pitta, Kapha or Dosha Dhatu Mala Vignan, no doubt it is highly scientific, but it's very unfortunate that this language is not accepted by the scientific community outside India. Even in India also, non-Ayurvedic medical practitioners, they don't accept this language. So there is a problem with the acceptance. But when we will explain all these things, if somebody is working in, for example, ophthalmology, or somebody is working with the gynecology, those people also should explore their principles in the terms of molecular biology, in the terms of genetics and epigenetics, in the terms of biochemistry, keeping our principles highly intact and
So
taking this.
whenever, if we take an example of a patient, say obesity and PCOD, so how do you diagnose the patient on the principle of like if a patient comes to you?
See, basically, Ayurveda has made it very simplified. One thing should be very clear, that Ayurveda has classified disease into either Santarpan or Apatarpan. Very simple. If you even go to the endocrinology, forget about this obesity and PCOD, we'll go deep in endocrinology. We know all the hormones. Some hormones are anabolic, some hormones are catabolic. Similarly, if we see that majority of the disease, they are classified either as Apatarpan or Santarpan. If you see the common pathology, the Santarpanjanya pathology and Apatarpanjanya pathologies are moreover common with each other. Now, if you ask about polycystic ovarian disease and obesity, both are anabolic disorders, both are Santarpanjanya Vyadhis. Majority of the time, the causes behind this disease is same. Majority of the time, the pathophysiology, the hormones which are getting disturbed, they are also same. So Why not to classify this disease into, for example, PCOD is not very clear, though there is a reference, but it is not very clearly mentioned in Ayurveda. Then classify PCOD in Santarpanjanya Vyadhi, no? Very simple. Classify whatever the hormones which are getting disturbed into that certain category of apatarpan hormone or sandarpan hormone. For example, insulin is sandarpan, it is anabolic hormone. DHEA is anabolic hormone. So classify testosterone anabolic hormone, estrogen anabolic hormone, progesterone anabolic hormone. So we have to classify all such hormones, whether it is getting anabolic or whether it is in a catabolic, and that's how do we have to decide the drugs. Selection of the drugs, for example, anyway, a tikta rasatmak or kashaya rasatmak dravya can't be anabolic anytime, no? It has to be catabolic because it is tikta and kashaya rasatmak. You can't show any single drug which is tikta rasatmak or which is kashaya rasatmak, but having anabolic properties. So that way we have to. Then second thing, when we want to develop a pharmacology, the pharmacology of taste receptors should be very sound with. Unless and until we know the receptor theories of the taste, we can't elaborate the pharmac because the Dravya Gun Shastra totally depends on the Rasavirya Vipak. Rasa is very important.
Yes.
And if we know that which taste receptors are working where and how they are working, how they are getting stimulated with Kashaya Rasatmak or Tikta Rasatmak or Katu Rasatmak or Madhur Rasatmak, then definitely we will be able to select the drug very perfectly. We will be able to select the dosage of that drug very perfectly and give into a particular disease. So that is how we have to elaborate the things very correctly.
So if we know the biochemistry, so we can understand more deeper level.
Yeah. If we know molecular biology and biochemistry, Ayurveda can be understood in a very different perspective. Oh. No doubt, we are graduate people. We are basically Ayurveda doctors. We know our Ayurveda in the perspective of Ayurveda principles. But if we know biochemistry and molecular biology and epigenetics, we can see Ayurveda in a very different perspective, and that comes to the help while treating the patients very correctly.
Yeah, fantastic. So this is really the insightful vision. Like every Ayurveda doctors, the upcoming doctors or the practitioners, they should have this kind of vision to understand Ayurveda in a different manner, so that if you can put in the language that words understand, so it is easily acceptable. So you have to diagnose the disease on the basis of Ayurveda only, but explain it to the world in the language they understand. So this
that should be, because until unless the whole population of the world, whole scientific community of the world is going to get attracted towards Ayurveda, our life will be finished.
Yes.
Maybe next 5-6 generations will be finished. So why now to take this knowledge for the exploring Ayurveda principles and making them understood very, very correctly? But you should see that they should not misinterpret the concept with the help of these tools. They should stick to the principles of Ayurveda. That's very important, because many a times, even many big name scientists, they misinterpret Ayurveda, and this misinterpreted Ayurveda goes to the society, and the society then it is wrongly followed. So this misinterpretation of the principle should not be there. So these tools should be used for the correct interpretation and not for the wrong interpretation.
Yes, fantastic, sir. Thank you so much for this insightful vision.
Yeah.
So you have started and thinking in this line since last 26 years. So, was the journey was easy for you? What were the challenges? Like people were accepting this situation, or you have started from day one the obesity. So probably you are losing the patients of, say, arthritis or gynecology, infertility. So what do you think? So people should start with specialty, so they are losing patients.
See, I have two explanations for this. So whatever our time was the time of the libraries and books. So I think internet started in Aurangabad in 2002 to 2003, or it may be nearly 2005. Till then we didn't have internet. So I used to take leave from my clinic. And I used to move to Mumbai, Chennai, Pune in big libraries. I used to give applications to the librarians and for the to the principals that I am a student of Ayurveda, but I want to look towards the journals of your library and please permit me. So I used to go to those libraries. Then I used to just start at 9 o'clock till evening. If they permit me, I used to sit up to 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. I used to just figure out majority of the research papers. Then sometimes I used to, we didn't had a mobile to take a photograph of those papers.
Yeah.
So I used to take a, what we call as, I used to request them to permit me to take those journals out of the library and make a Xerox of it. So it was a very painful process because in one day, just by going by title, I used to keep the side research papers aside, and then I used to make a Xerox, then coming back to my clinic again on second, third day, again read that material till it finishes 1.5 month, and then again go to a different library to scan because I was not able to afford the journals as a private practitioner of Ayurveda. So I used to, that was the thing because internet was not there. So research was very tough for us. And then again, whatever the research I had read, that research I wanted to apply in my clinic. And then I clicked that yes, we need a laboratory for it. So a dedicated, so I discussed this issue with Saurikar sir, and then we developed a NGO that is Atre Pratishthan, and that then we started building a very good structure for our research center. And then slowly, steadily, I bought some instruments, some I bought second-hand instruments, some I begged the instruments to the college people, okay, give me such instrument, I am a research worker, but I can't afford to buy it. So I bought some instrument here, from here and there, and I started my own laboratory, research analytical laboratory. Wow. Then I got it that, okay, I got an analytical lab for the standardization or for the analysis of the herbs, but what about the patients? And because whatever I used to tell the patient don't used to believe me. And in those days, there was no practice that Ayurveda practitioner used to prescribe the higher hormones to get it done by the patients. So then I started collecting money and I developed my own hormonal lab. Wow. Now we analyze nearly 100 hormones in our lab. Very rare hormone we analyze, even adiponectin, leptin. So such type of hormones we analyze at our lab. So at the clinic side lab was developed, hormonal clinic side lab, hormonal biochemical lab, hormonal microbiology lab was, clinic side microbiology, biochemistry and hormonal lab was developed. Again, all biochemical tests were done at my lab. But the thing was that I don't used to get the technicians coming to Ayurveda hospitals. Then I started developing the technicians. Now our lab is well equipped with the technicians, with the biochemist, with the microbiologist, and now I am so proud that they are on my muster roll. I pay them salaries as an Ayurveda physician, that we have some pharmacologist, we have some biochemist, we have some microbiologist on our muster roll, and we are regularly paying them, and they are attached to my organization from last 15 to 16 years. So that we have achieved. So having a laboratory, going for a research, since there was no internet, and I was one of the first 5 clients of BSNL in Aurangabad to take internet. At that time, the outgoing charges of internet were very heavy, means outgoing and incoming charges of the mobile and internet. It was nearly, and then I took a loan from the bank and I brought a Zenith PC in my, in nearly 2003 or 2004, I bought a Zenith PC and then I took an internet connection for it. So that was the story. It was very, very tough because to collect the money from Ayurveda practice, to make money out of our daily routine and to develop the laboratory, this was a very, very tough time. But due to our support from my teachers, support from my family, support from my friends who used to refer me the patients, so I was able to develop all these things in a span of nearly 7 to 8 years.
But yes, this is really the embarkable journey, I will say. Those who are listening to this interview, You can just imagine a single Ayurveda person can build the research lab, the clinical side hormonal labs, and at the same time the Atriya Pratishthan, which is a kind of a Gurukul where the students can learn, come and gain knowledge from such a stalwarts. So you are really inspiring us, sir. So my second question was like, are we losing this patient if we are starting with one specialty?
No. Basically, if we aim to start a super specialty treatments, I'll tell you a very interesting thing. One thing. When I took admission in BAMS, I used to see the boards of the other senior doctors. And on the board, it used to be written that piles will be treated, hairs will be treated, skin will be treated, heart will be treated. Treatment for diabetes is very good. Treatment for fistula is very good. How a single doctor can do one-handedly with a very expert thing? No, people do it. But up to a certain level, beyond that level, they can't do it. So when we start super specialty practice, or when a physician or when a cardiologist come to a practice in the society, his mindset is already that I am not going to treat piles. So when the mindset is that I am not going to treat piles, it doesn't that thought doesn't come to mind that I am losing the patient of piles. That's very important. This thought process and setup of mind while starting the practice is very important. That what is the setup of your mind? If you want to grab everything, then don't be super specialty. But once you start super specialty and once the society accepts you as a super specialty doctor, then definitely you never lose the patient at all. Because you are the doctor who is working on the smallest area with the largest scope. You are working only on obesity with the maximum scope you are working. So not only that, the obese people from all over the periphery are going to come to you. They are not going to go to other doctors. So that is your win. Yes, and so that mindset should be there when you are starting the practice.
Yeah. So I always give this example. There is a red ocean and there is a blue ocean. In red ocean, there are many sharks. And in blue ocean, there are one or two sharks, they are swimming. So we have to choose our area. If we want to reduce the competition, so we have to narrow down our niche, our specialty, so that there will be the less competition. And nowadays, like in the internet era, the whole world is just a click away. And if you are super specialist of some particular disease or some system, and if you can really approach to the whole world, so there will be no fear of losing patients, because you are going to get so many patients from all over the world. So because many of I am conducting these workshops on how to establish your specialty practice. So students are asking कि स्टार्टिंग के जो हमारे दिन है उसमें फिर कोई पेशेंट नहीं आएगा हमारे पास में, क्योंकि हम उतने वेल नोन नहीं होंगे, फिर हम सरवाइव कैसे करेंगे, हमारा डे टू डे कैसा चलेगा. So what will you suggest?
Yeah, that is once you start a super specialty practice, you must lose your patient by your hands first thing. Because if you're sitting as an obesitician and a unknown patient comes to you, sir, I have a piles, directly refer to the patient to your colleague. Basically, this is missing in Ayurveda people, Ayurveda fraternity. Referring the patient, which I am not going to see because I don't do Panchakarma. If somebody asks me that, yeah, whether do you no, that colleague is doing Panchakarma, you go to him and you do it, get it done. What it gives the very clear-cut idea to the coming patient. Yes, this doctor is highly specialized only in that area. And if something clicks his mind or somebody in his family or friend circle gets that disease, he will definitely refer that patient to you.
Yes.
If I say that today I didn't had a patient, but चला let एक patient आया है पाइल्स का, उसको treat तो करके लेंगे, आज सवेरे से कुछ मिला ही नहीं है. So that you have to restrict. If some patient of skin is coming, okay, I will see skin also, I will skin this also, I will skin that. that doesn't work. That doesn't give a correct message into the society. Because when you are called super specialty, when society recognizes you as a super specialty, because there is no such obesity course in Ayurveda. Now we have developed, we have put it into certain universities. But when I started obesity as a super specialty, there was no such course as an obesity course in Ayurveda. So how did I get a recognition? No university was there to recognize me. So society gave me that recognition. So we have to be in the society in that way that we have to give the message to the society that apart from obesity or apart from metabolic disorders, I am not going to entertain any other patient. If that message goes correctly to the society, society starts referring to you in the super specialty you are. That's very important, and the recognition should be from the society. There are many courses which are recognized by the universities, and when you sit for the practice, no patients recognizes you, no society. What's the use then? So when you are working in the society, society should recognize you as a super specialty in that area, and for that we have to give the message to the society first.
So, catching this thread, the society and the government, or the governing authority who are preparing the syllabus, or who are like opening the colleges and all. So what do you think, where does Ayurveda stand in the society? And we clearly know like Ayurveda is not accepted as the first line of treatment, not even in India, but forget about abroad. So what should be done to keep this Ayurveda science as the first line of treatment, the first choice by the patients?
See, basically the question is very, very broad. There are a number of aspects answering this question.
Yeah.
When we want to keep Ayurveda on the first line treatment, what I feel that students who take admission to the first year, right from first year, they should be highly serious while studying. Our students are most casual regarding Ayurveda science, most casual. They feel that these are so small textbooks which are prepared from certain author, read them and finish it up. What happens? They will get the marks, they will excel in the studies, but they can't apply the science into the OPD. Unless and until they apply the science in OPD very correctly, the society will not recognize that this science is a very good science. And where is the problem? Problem is with the knowledge. So you should be highly upgraded with the knowledge when you are setting up the practice. That's very important, because people pay you for your, not for your setup, but for your confidence and knowledge. That's very important. If you are writing a prescription, for example, I have written Tribhuvan Kirti and I have written Triphala Google to the patient, and I tell the patient, definitely after 24 hours, you are going to feel better. Patient doesn't read the Tribhuvan Kirti and Triphala Google. Patient reads the confidence on the face of the consultant. Yes, with that confidence he has shown me, he will readily give you 500 rupees as a consultation fees or 300 rupees as a consultation fees. But if you write a very good medicine, but if the patient asks that when I will feel better, and if the doctor is not confident of giving any answer or telling the prognosis, no use. So what the patient takes from you is the confidence. What the patient takes from you is your knowledge. And the confidence doesn't comes without knowledge. That's very, very important. That's why I just appeal to the students who are in the course or who are in the verge of setting up the practice, be knowledgeable. The maximum knowledge you will acquire, the more you will be excelling in your practice, and you will be more accepted as a super specialty practitioner. For example, if you are working as a cardiologist and as an Ayurveda doctor, you say that I don't believe in ECG, nobody is going to come to you. You should be upgraded that way. Even I feel that you should be doing angiographies also as an Ayurveda physician. That should be your what we can tell it as, you should be ready for that also. So upgradation is very important. Then thirst for knowledge is very, very important as a very good practitioner. And basically society is behind the results. Society is never behind the pathy. Because modern medicine is giving the results, society is behind modern medicine. Now in our area, we are giving results in metabolic disorders. I have a lot of patients. Because people are coming not because of Dr. Sabnis, people are coming because they are getting relief. Then if I have developed some protocol and I have developed my franchisee and the same results are generated at my franchisee center, people are going there also. So people are not behind the individual, or people are not behind the science, people are behind results. You generate results, society will be behind you. But the problem is there.
It doesn't matter how you diagnose the patient.
Yeah, it
They
doesn't
just
matter
want
at all.
result.
It doesn't matter. Your diagnosis also should be in the line of the society. If I say that, Madam, tumhala amvat zhalai, you are getting amvat. So that madam will ask, what do you mean by amvat? If I say yes, you are affected by rheumatism, then she will understand it very correctly. So your way of thinking, way of delivery of the prescription, way of delivery of consultation should be also up to the mark. Your counseling should be also up to the mark. It's not like that counseling is done only for the psychiatric patients. Counselings are also done for arthritis. Counselings are also done in metabolic disorders, in PCOD, in obesity. Everywhere counseling should be there. And hits the patient very correctly. If you are again telling, okay, me tumsa aam pachan karel, I will do aam pachan, I will do deepan, then do this, do that, patient will not understand anything. You have to tell the patient in the way he understands. And today, because of the Google, people immediately outside the cabin, they will tell you, they will Google the things very correctly. And then they will ask, whatever you have told aam pachan, we didn't get it. So your counselings and consultations are also very important. Your prescriptions are also very important. That all these things matters a lot.
Yes, sir. So now what I get from this session is you need to be a researcher. You need to be a believer of Ayurveda as well as modern medicine.
Yeah.
And we should talk in a language that was understand. And once they comes to you, then you can slowly educate them with the Ayurvedic terminologies. So once they have trust on you, then you can, if he is interested more, then we can explain about what is Ayurveda, and through this channel we can reach easily at a global platform.
Yeah.
So so now we are coming to the end point of this session. The advice for today's generation who wants to start specialty practice, how should they choose their specialty? That is my first question. And how much they can make in terms of monetary gains with specialty?
Basically, what specialty people should start depends on the area of interest of their mind. That somebody isn't, because I have seen many students. So when I'm practicing, so many students comes to me and they say that I'm studying in 12th. Then I ask them, what do you want to become? So people, I want to become an ophthalmologist. My area isn't to work in the area of eye. I want to be an orthopedic surgeon. I want to be an Ayurveda. So different areas are there. So what is the liking of your mind is very, very important. First thing. Second thing, to be a super specialty, I just told that you have to be very, very upgraded with the knowledge. Very, very upgraded. Not only with our science, but with the paramedical sciences and with the contemporary sciences. So you should be highly upgraded. Third thing to be start with the super specialty practice, that your clinic should be presentable. You should be presentable. Your medicines should be presentable. Your packing should be presentable. Your receptionist should be presentable. Your staff should be presentable. Whatever you are showing to the patient should be completely presentable, so you can charge a consultation fees for the patient. If you are sitting alone and your staff is not up to the mark, they are not presentable, your receptionist is not talking properly, and you are charging 1,000 rupees consultation fees, the patient will not be very happy to pay. You should be, your clinic should be highly upgraded. Now we are planning to have a paperless clinic, means I am going to work on it, and within 1 month or 2 months, we will be giving a paperless prescription. The prescription will directly go to on the mobile WhatsApp of the patient. That much advancements we should try to bring it to the clinic when you want to be a super specialty. Apart from the good quality knowledge you have, good quality of management you have, apart from that, all these things should be highly presentable. Your knowledge, then your results, how you are going to get the results. And when you are in the super specialty practices, try to educate the patient very correctly. Educating the patient in super specialty clinic is very important. If the patients get educated very correctly, if the patient knows that what we are going to do with him and his money, then the patient will never give you off. Patient will be stuck with you for a lifetime period. That's very, these are the requirement of the person who is having, who is intending to have a super specialty clinic. No doubt, I feel that there are many branches which are still untouched. For example, Ayurveda hepatology, it is totally an untouched branch. Nobody is super specially working on Ayurveda hepatology. Okay, so there are such many branches still. Ayurveda immunology, nobody is working on it. Correctly, nobody is working on it. Okay, so there are many branches still not touched. So Ayurveda people should explore where we have very good quality management. We can explore it very nicely, and then we can start with our super specialty clinic. First thing. Second thing, when we want to start with the super specialty clinic, people are hesitant to invest. They should invest a lot into it, because if you see a modern medicine physician who starts a setup, invest at least 2-3 crore rupees in his hospital. Yeah. Then he expects a return of 10-15 lakhs rupees a month. Whatever happens, because of the lack of confidence and lack of knowledge, our doctors, though they have a capacity to invest, they don't invest. And because of the lack of investment into their hospitals, they can't expect good results out of it. Because today is the era of presentability and advertisements. If you are not presenting yourself very correctly, if you are not investing into it, then definitely people will not get attracted. So your brochure should be very good. Brochure should be of very good quality. I have seen many doctors who print a brochure on black and white paper and with a very low quality paper. It doesn't appeal for a modern medicine practitioner or for a very educated people. It should be at least 4 color. It should be glossy. It should be a little bit thick.
Attractive, yeah.
So it should be appreciated. So all such, whatever are the matters on the brochure, that should be highly scientific. So that way you should start your practice, and that way it should go. That is very important. First question. This was the answer for the first question. The second question, that how much you can earn max. I think if you have invested very nicely, if you are highly scientific, if you are doing it very sincerely, if you are loving your profession, then I think 3 to 4 crores a year should be the target.
Really?
For the super specialty practitioners.
So
easily you can earn.
Oh. Yes, like you are the living example of that amount that you have already achieved that target. So those who are listening to this, you should believe this person, because he's the living example, he's the living legend who has achieved that much of amount or more than that with the specialty practice on obesity. And the journey was not so easy, it was highly difficult, but with the help of knowledge, with the help of research attitude, and with the help of the integrated mindset, and just keeping himself ahead of the time. He has always thinking about ahead of the time, what is next. So the takeaway from this interview is you can really appreciate this person who has already crossed this mark of 2-3 crores per year, and he's already doing this since many years. So the key takeaway from this interview, the first one is you need to be a good researcher. You need to be with the integrated approach. in your clinical practice, you need to be vigilant about what is there outside the world. What is you need to be upgraded every time with your knowledge and with your day-to-day learning. You need to keep learning yourself every day. I know him. He's still learning at least 2 hours a day in the morning. So the learning is a continuous process. And if you can really focus on these areas and if you can really practice specialty, so definitely you can achieve a big success with the help of Ayurveda. So, sir, we are conducting such kind of live workshops on starting the specialty practice. And we, whatever you have mentioned, many of the points I'm covering in that workshop. And
Okay.
we have started one course. It is a specialty practice blueprint. It is the pre-recorded course, and we have conducted some 5 modules in that. And how to build your mindset, how to start your, how to set up your systems, and how to enhance your skills, how should be the ethical marketing for your clinic or your specialty, and what should be the selling strategy. So we have mentioned all these points, and we have covered a lot of videos inside that course. So a few booster points for that course, your views. So is it is it necessary to learn through the courses, or
Yeah, it is basically it is necessary because I'll tell my own experience to you. So when we were into some marketing strategies, actually as a practitioner, I didn't knew how to market it.
Yes.
And when the consultants used to tell me their charges, I used to be a step behind. Oh, if these are the marketing charges and if these things we have to do, because for a simple thing, if I asked a person to print a brochure, A4 size brochure to print nearly 2,000 brochure will cost you nearly 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 rupees.
At least, yes.
Yeah. And then at that time we think, okay, is it really necessary to put 9,000 rupees, and when we are going to get back these 9,000 rupees? Considering about the matter on the brochure, as you spoke it, that it should be ethical marketing. That what are the claims what we are making on the brochure? Whether my claims are really very tall claims, whether I am, and these tall claims only, they can bring only few patients to us, but they can reduce our patients in multiplications. So what should be the claims? How should be the marketing strategies? What should be the marketing platforms, whether it should be digital or whether it should be print? So once I met my friend who was in marketing, and I told about the print media. I told him that I want to give advertisement in a big newspaper. So he told that the life is only for 3 hours. I didn't understand the term. That in print media, once the newspaper comes to your home, and when you are taking tea, only at that time you are going to look it and your family members are going to look it. Thereafter, the life is finished. So all these things means it is only 3 hours is the life of that advertisement, where I have to pay lakhs of rupees. So basically, these things should be known to the person. So such type of courses, whatever you are conducting, are very, very important to know about the advertisement, to know about the marketing strategies in medical field. Then basically, I have never given advertisements. Once I tried to give it, and a letter came from the court to me that you have used some unofficial words into advertisement. From that day, I have not given advertisements. So what type of wordings you should use it, whether my wordings are going to clash some things. Then second most important thing, when you want to start a super specialty practice, your branding is very important. That what should be the name of your clinic, how to brand the name of the clinic, how to make it trademark registered, how to register the name, how to get a copyright out of it. All these legal formalities are to be followed very strictly, and a common practitioner doesn't have any knowledge about it. So definitely the courses, whatever you are running, online courses, that will be really helpful for the practitioners to develop their practice very nicely.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. And I am really happy to share Already there are more than 30 students have taken admission for that course. They are
Okay,
learning
good.
and they have started their specialty practice. And the students, many of the students are senior general practitioners. So they have started practice as a general practitioner since 12 years, 15 years. Now they think this is a time that we should create our identity
Yeah,
with the help of specialty practice. So this is really the need of an hour. And I'm really thankful to you, sir. Like, I know like you were not feeling well, and it was very tough for you to talk so much of time. But you found out the time for us, and those who are listening to this will be really happy to understand the concepts of getting the universal identity and earning name, fame, and money at the same time with the help of Ayurveda. So thank you so much, sir. And,
Thank you, Hitesh. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. So see you soon, sir.
Okay.